Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kay Jacobson, and I am a librarian at the Ramsey County Libraries, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you back to Schools of Psychology. This program is brought to you through the co-sponsorship of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute of the University of Minnesota, the Ramsey County Libraries, and the Ramsey County Library Friends, whose financial support helps make this program possible. We are thankful to all of these organizations for making these available for us to learn something we haven't learned before. I've realized that the man who needs no introduction I did not introduce last week, but I will today. J.B. Andersen, creator of the popular History of the American Presidents, a lifelong historian, a curator, a writer, educator, someone who's served 25 years at the University of Minnesota, willing to share his wealth of knowledge and not just his interest about the presidents, but also schools of psychology. So without any further ado, let's hand things over to JB.
Thank you. I would like you to know that next quarter I will be doing more psychologists, but I think in the spring, let's do something that's presidential, and then again in the fall, psychologists, and then back to presidents again. I'm working on a lecture that's about presidential power and how it's increased over the years. So I think that's what I might be doing come spring quarter. So good. It takes me just a minute here to get set up. Okay, you should all be seeing my slide now that says sibling rivalry introduction. And that's where we left off last week. Sibling rivalry is a term that lots of people have heard, and it is an Adlerian term. It was Alfred Adler that invented this concept. So first, let's take a look at the definition of it. It's about the competition, the difficulties, warfare even, that occurs between siblings, and that includes both brothers and sisters, sisters and sisters, brothers and brothers. It's the entire family, no gender separation as a result. What they're trying to do in this competition that they have with each other is gain the attention and affection of their parents. Siblings spend a lot more time with each other than they do with parents. Hey, let's go outside and play. They're out there for 3 hours, and mom says, lunch. They come in and sit for 10 or 15 minutes and slam down a sandwich with their mother, and then they're out playing in the backyard again. This is called the sibling bond by Adlerian psychologists. So siblings, their major relationship is with other siblings, unless, of course, they are an only child. The sibling bond, here are 4 factors that deal with bonding among children. How does the parent treat each one of you? Do they have a favorite? Do they have somebody they're constantly having to correct, etc.? So what gets siblings to bond? How the parents relate to each of the siblings. And then birth order is a factor. Birth order is, are you number 1, 2, 3, 4 in the family? Are you a middle child? Are you a youngest child? Etc. So birth order has effects on personality also, or on how you behave. And then personality, some people are quiet, some people are very talkative, some people do sports, some people sit and read, etc. So personality development is also a factor in how siblings bond with each other. Then there's people outside the family that can have an effect on each of us. People like might be as significant as a mentor, or maybe it's just a neighbor that you talk to occasionally. The most intense thing is, sorry, I need to change a little something there. Thank you. Most intense thing is age closeness. I mean, here's a couple of sisters that are a year apart. That's pretty close in age. And sibling rivalry there is frequently, I mean, they share a lot. They play together. They're of almost the same age. Also, the same gender is a major factor in relationships between children, and intelligence. You might have a firstborn and a fourthborn, and they're super bright, do well in school, maybe, although that's not necessarily a sign of intelligence, but they bond together as a result. About 18 months into your age after your birth, you pretty much have a good understanding of family rules. Don't try to sit on the dog. Please stay in a certain spot, etc. Those are family rules. Then there's social rules. And by 3 years, pretty much know about social rules, who you can talk to, be careful with strangers, etc., and say hello and goodbye, so on. You now know pretty much how to tolerate your siblings. Sibling rivalry, the next element of it, is lifetime effects. Sibling rivalry can be very difficult for parents. They see a couple of their kids are arguing with each other or playing one-upmanship or not communicating with another child. And this all starts in childhood, continues into adolescence when you become a pretty powerful person. You're now a grown-up with a strong voice. So teenagers are very well equipped to hurt each other. And by hurt, I mean physical hurt, intellectual hurt, and emotional hurt. So language and fighting. Sibling rivalry in the teenage years, oftentimes it's just a way to get parental attention. Hey, mom said something to me, or mom broke us up, or you're becoming it helps you become a part of the family when the parents get involved, or you feel more like a part of the family. The highest level of sibling competition occurs between the ages of 10 and 15 years. I've always had a thing there down on the left side, hierarchy versus closeness. Cultures all have a distance factor. Asians will stand much closer together than will North Americans. They might be 18 inches apart. North Americans are more comfortable at 36 inches apart or 30 inches or so. I have seen at the university a professor being talked to by an Asian student. The professor is a Western person, and they're both trying to establish a distance, and the professor is literally moved down the hallway 15 feet during the course of the conversation. This I can understand, how we feel about closeness. Hierarchy is another thing. Hey, I'm in charge here. That is, I think, is very difficult to understand. Why people want to be in power. Anyhow, we'll see. And that's part of what goes on here with sibling competition, especially during these very formative years of 10 to 15. In adulthood, you got an ill parent, siblings tend to become much closer or if the parent dies, it initiates closeness. You all come together, there's a celebration, you need to make arrangements and so on. About a third of all siblings describe themselves as different or distant from each other. 1/3. But by the time you hit 60 years old, only about 20% are saying we're distant from each other. Also, marriages cause separation. You're in the family and you say, okay, I've got an announcement, I'm getting married and we're moving to Cincinnati. Or you don't even have to move. You can stay in the same neighborhood as other family members, but you've now got other responsibilities. So you remain closer to your marriage family than you are to your birth family. Causes commonality of sibling rivalry. People want to establish their own identity, want to be an individual. I'm somebody, here's who I am, and here's who I want to be. And you want to separate yourself from other people, especially other siblings, and obtain that identity of your own. We all want to be significant, have something special about ourselves. Does that lead to competition? That can depend on parents and how they enter into the competition between the siblings. There's 14 help aids here that Adlerians have originated, and they all deal with a parent. How do parents behave in a family? Be careful about showing favoritism is one of the issues. Don't pick out a kid. Don't tell one kid to be like another kid, etc. Number 2, prepare your children for a coming birth, such as is exhibited in the graphic on this page. Talk about the baby coming and why mommy's got a big tummy, and give a listen and so on. Do not compare children or try to avoid comparing children. Do it very seldom. That's usually shows favoritism. And don't typecast children by saying things like, well, you're just a so-and-so. Well, you're just way too active. Things like that. Adler, so don't compare your child to others. For instance, no comparison between the sun and the moon. They shine when it's their time. Another thing that Adlerians advise parents to do is plan family activities together. So let's all go to a movie. Okay, good. So you leave the house and go to a movie. Or today it's more, let's watch TV or something like that. And allow a child to have their own time and space. If they're sitting in their room, that's okay. You can check in on them, but don't tell them, hey, come on downstairs with the rest of us. They probably got something going on up there, playing a game or reading or something of that sort. So plan family activities together, but allow children to have their own time and space also. Each child can get individual attention. So it's okay to sit, as in the top graphic here, help with homework. See? And you can do that with each child once homework becomes something that's a part of their life. Item 8, encourage teamwork among children. You can play games. You can show them how to use a piggy bank, such as in the bottom image on this slide. So encourage teamwork, working together. Ninth thing that Adlerians like to see parents do is not show favoritism. Treat each child as special. Don't hold another child up as a role model. Item number 10. You should behave more like your older brother. He does this, that, and the other thing. He puts his dishes back in the sink when he's done eating, so on. Teach positive ways to get attention when people need help. Here's a young man and his mother, and they are collecting recyclable items. So avoid aggression about, hey, we got work to do, and attention getting. Make it a fun thing to do with mom or dad. And number 12, same graphic. Catch children being good. Oh, thank you so much. What a great find. A big piece of plastic bottle like that, 13 and 14, number 13. Encourage problem solving. Let's put a puzzle together. Does this piece fit into that piece? Or negotiations about something. Listen, if you spend 15 minutes doing homework, then let's have a cupcake, something like that. Reduce competitive behaviors between children. Try to get them involved in things that require cooperation. Again, this is what Adlerians say about parenthood. But you're never going to get rid of sibling rivalry. It's a constant. Adlerians say it's just part of the scheme of things. You will never totally reduce it. We need to let it run its course. And in some ways, it's healthy. You end up feeling more like an individual and giving individual expression. You find things that help you find yourself, aids in finding the self. Rivalry between siblings needs to be called what it is. Adlerians say it's a common feature of family life, sibling rivalry. Let's take a look at sibling rivalry in animals. This runs throughout many species. A firstborn hatched baby bird will often, when a second child hatches, will peck it to death. So it's that's the ultimate in sibling rivalry. 1/4 of all hyena second-born children is killed by the older or firstborn hyena child. 1/4. However, just the opposite occurs in wolves. They protect their younger siblings. The oldest one helps keep the younger one warm and sees to it that he gets some of the food that the parents bring back, etc. Sibling rivalry, we're going to talk about it in 3 different areas: religion, literature, and film. Ever hear of Cain and Abel? One sibling is favored by God. The other sibling then kills his brother. This is the story of Cain and Abel. Talk about sibling rivalry. Joseph's father. Now, everybody pretty much had the same color items. Colors were a difficult thing in clothing back in this day. And Joseph's father favors him. And all the other siblings see that Joseph gets a coat of many colors. So they become concerned about Joseph. They kidnap him, take him to a person who sells people into slavery. And in the Bible story, Joseph, by his siblings, is sold into slavery because of the attention he's receiving from his father. In William Shakespeare's play, King Lear, Lear brings together his 3 daughters, pictured here in the background, and he says to each of them, I want you to describe your love for me. How do you love me? Why do you love me? What is it you like about me? He's really putting them together to speak to him with the others present. Talk about sibling rivalry. Shakespeare's Richard III. Richard III's brother is King Edward. Now, King Edward has two sons. When Edward dies, one of his sons is going to become king, the oldest one. Richard III doesn't like this. He says, I want to be king. So he fights his brother, King Edward, and King Edward dies. And then in order to be king, rather than one of Edward's sons getting the job, Richard III kills Edward's sons. Sherlock Holmes. Many of you may have read these mysteries, or there's been tons of movies made about Sherlock Holmes. He regularly references his brother Mycroft. He's so much smarter. See, that's a sibling rivalry case. Olivia de Havilland, on the right in this image, famous actress in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, is pictured here with, on the left, her sister, Joan Fontaine. And they had difficulties with each other from childhood. Then in 1941, both of them are nominated for the same position, Best Actress of the Year. And Joan, the one on the left, wins. They didn't speak for the last 40 years of their life as a result of their lives. The Andrew sisters, they were from Minneapolis. So was on the left, Eddie Albert. All four of these people graduated from Central High School in Minneapolis. But it's the Andrew sisters that we're going to talk about. They performed together. But when they were in a room doing makeup or getting dressed and ready to go on stage, people could hear them arguing and shouting at each other, treating each other harshly. After 1975, for a 20-year period until they had died, they never spoke to each other again. And by 1975, it was the end of the big band era, so they weren't working together anymore. Abigail Van Buren and Ann Landers. Amazingly, these two are from Minneapolis also. And here you can see them. I mean, look, one's looking into the camera and another one seems to be holding her back. And they both end up having the same kind of job, you know, answering questions that people write into newspapers about relationships. Even in public, they were troublesome. Lots of people wrote about how difficult they were in a gathering together. Let's take a look at what Adlerians say about feminism. Alfred Adler was an early supporter of feminism. This is a picture of his wife, Rosa Epstein, and married to Alfred Adler. Was a leader in the communist movement. She worked very closely with Lenin. So that was, and you know, rights for women was a big deal among communists, and that was one reason that Rosa Epstein, married to Adler, was very interested in the feminist movement. Adler thought inferiority and superiority were biased against women who were inferior. He wanted that changed. He didn't like the fact that women were considered inferior. So Adler's analysis of Vaclav Nijinsky. We're going to talk about Nijinsky. He had quite a diary that he had written, and Adler was involved in his analysis. This is Nijinsky, ballet dancer, one of the greatest of all time. Here he's seen more in a modern kind of dance as opposed to ballet, but ballet is 90% of the kind of dancing that he did. One of the greatest dancers of all time. He was born in Poland, and when he was still a child, his family moved to Kiev in the Ukraine. He lived to be 61 years old, 1889 to 1950. Now, eventually, because of his tremendous talent, he was brought in to the Imperial Ballet in Russia, which was the all-time great ballet. Here's a map. This shows, he was born and lived in Poland for a while. Then they moved to Kiev. Here's Russia over here, so you can see the movement. In 1909, he joined the Ballet Rus, which is the Russian ballet. Now, about 8 years later, when the communists are taking over in Russia and there's problems and art is beginning to fail, not getting the support from the nobility that it previously had, the Russian ballet, under the directorship of Sergei Diaghilev, he says, we're moving to Paris, France. So he and all the dancers went down to Paris when that Russian Revolution began. This is Diaghilev. I've spent a lot of time in Manhattan, New York City, and once when I was there, I would almost always go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art that's located about 80th Street, just inside of Central Park. One time when I went there, they had a display of costumes from the Ballet Russe, or the Paris Ballet also. And I'd never been very interested in clothing, but people, it was interesting walking around. I mean, they told, and looking at all these costumes that people had worn during this play, and they told about how they were made and why they were preserved and so on. Nijinsky as a person was very quiet, seldom spoke with other people. He'd be amongst a group of people and they might be around each other for an hour and he has said nothing. He was also bisexual. And in this day and age, this was frowned upon. So keeping quiet maybe is a reason, or it's a reason for his keeping quiet. He did marry to a woman in 1917. Here's a photograph of the two of them. And they had two daughters. And they remained married until his death in 1950. So they were married for 33 years. Now, this is Václav and Romula Nijinsky. Here they are later in life. Nijinsky ended up having to start his own ballet company. It involved lots of travel. He was away from his family and his two children, and there were problems with money. They just weren't getting enough money to buy costumes and rent stages and so on. And it just made a nervous wreck out of Nijinsky, who was already kind of a hiding inside himself kind of person. So his wife took him to some counseling and they diagnosed him as having schizophrenia. And he and his wife then settled in San Moritz because there was a mental institution there. So here's San Moritz in Switzerland. And he was placed in a mental institution there. Adler's analysis of Václav Nijinsky's diary. Nijinsky kept a diary over a 30-year period with entries in it occasionally, not daily. Here's a copy of the book that got published called The Diary of Václav Nijinsky. After he had died, his wife, Romula, wanted to have it published. And she thought, who could write a introduction to this book? And Alfred Adler had become famous, as had Adlerian psychology. She contacted him and asked, would you visit with my husband He hadn't died yet. She figured when he did die, she could publish this thing. And we might then, like you, after you talk about it, we'll have you write a foreword to the book. Well, she didn't like what Adler told her about her husband. Adler stated he had an inferiority complex. Sounds very negative. She didn't like that. Adler's introduction was not used, and sorry about, I just couldn't get a clean copy of, I want to go back, of this bottom part here that shows who actually wrote the introduction, with an introduction by Kenneth Macmillan. Now, she thought maybe some of these other famous psychologists can do some work with her husband. Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung both agreed with her and traveled up to Switzerland and spoke with Nijinsky, and it was at the request of Nijinsky's wife. The diary was finally published, and she got it out before her husband had died. She figured he's never going to read it anyways in a mental institution. San Francisco Examiner says, wrote a review of it, said it provide ethereal images, but not much insight into the legendary dancer. And there is a recorded version of it, a spoken version. And you can see here it's narrated by Derek Jacobi. Well, who the heck is he? If you watched Masterpiece Theater back in the 1970s, you might remember a series they did on I, Claudius. Derek Jacobi played Claudius in that series. The diary sold at auction in 1979. This was 1 year after Romuald Nijinsky's death. She died in 1978, 28 years after her husband. Sold for $100,000. That's $440,000 today by inflation. So big price. Adler's analysis of Nijinsky. Let's take a look at what he said. This was first published in 1973, even though it was done in 1934 and then written up by Adler in 1936. And I'm going to read what Adler said. When I visited him 2 years ago in a sanitarium, he was quiet, well-nourished, and interested in his guests. But he did not speak and only occasionally broke into a friendly laugh. The attending physician informed me that this patient was always quiet, could not be forced to speak. Adler also commented on just his above average motor skills. I mean, no kidding, I mean, the guy was a world famous dancer. And his visual abilities. Adler stated, badly prepared for life, burdened from childhood with highly strained expectations, lacking the ordinary course of education, and put automatically in a class of people whose better schooling and background made him feel slighted. This points directly at Adler's concept of an inferiority complex. Symptoms about Nijinsky. They're basically all the same thing, using different words. Adler said he retired from social life. This was due to his feelings of inferiority. He had little social interest, same as retiring from social life. Little concern about contact with others, few relationships with other people, very solitary person. And this was after Nijinsky had spoken, or after Adler had spoken with Nijinsky. In adult life, Nijinsky had problems with his social life, his vocation. He had difficulties maintaining his own dance group. Loving others, paying attention to others. He felt constantly under attack, finally has a breakdown, spends the remainder of his life in a mental institution. Let's take a look at his son, who also went into psychology, but actually not psychology, psychiatry. He's a son to Alfred. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who specializes in psychology and can give prescription drugs. A psychologist is a person that can do therapy but cannot give prescription drugs. This is Kurt Adler, lived from 1905 to 1997, 92 years of age. And again, he's the son of Alfred Adler, continued his father's work. He got a PhD in physics in Austria, and then came to the United States and got a medical doctor's degree. His family came to the United States because they were Jewish, so they needed to escape Europe. They escaped Austria during the Holocaust. Kurt Adler, the son, was in his 30s when he got out of Europe and moved to New York. Here's the hospital that he worked at as a psychiatrist, Lenox Hill Hospital. I have a former student who was a psychologist at this hospital for several years. Here, this is in Manhattan. Here's Central Park, and you can see it's on the west side of Central Park. This is where the hospital is located at 820 Park Avenue here. Now, I lived at 210 West 67th Street. This is 72nd, so 67th is like about down in here, and 210 is right about where I'm pointing that arrow. And we had friends and former students who lived in Manhattan, so we'd go out there during summer months when they were on vacation and live in their apartments and pay them $40 a day rent, which is what their rent was. And that was, of course, far less expensive than a hotel, which was about $100 a day. Anyway, I would often walk past this hospital on my way to Central Park. Right here is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, about 80th or 82nd Street on the west side there. So the Upper West Side was called the Yupper West Side because there was a bunch of yuppies that lived there, wealthy young people on the make, on the rise, etc. So 39 years, Kurt Adler was president of the Advanced Institute for Analytic Psychotherapy. During World War II, he served in the United States Army. This is a picture of him. He was a psychiatrist. Main theme that he continued from his father is gender equality, equality of the sexes. There is no such thing as men being superior in any way, shape, or form compared to women. Aggression in men, according to Kurt Adler and his father, comes from a lack of understanding about this equality between the sexes. They are equal. When they are being equal to you, that gets men angry. There was a Adlerian workshop. There's an Adlerian society here in the Twin Cities. But there was a workshop that I attended in the 1970s, and I took notes on it. And it was, what is Adlerian psychology? And here is what that speaker said. Behavior is determined by what you want to be. It's got nothing to do with who you are. It's what you think you are, or what you think you ought to be. It's not about childhood, like Freudians said, even though a lot of Adlerian psychology deals with childhood. It's not about your background, and it's not about traumas that you've faced. And this is a lot of other psychologists said you're formed in childhood. What happened to you in childhood, your background there, and what traumas do you have? And the Adlerians are saying, nope. Where are you going? How do you intend to get there? Those are the big questions that people face. Here's a woman, very difficult situation, walking someplace on a railroad track. You establish a goal and then you seek that goal. And that's what commonly happens with people. Social context of your behavior. What is it? What's going on around you? What are you a part of? All people have problems. What are your problems? Figure them out. Excuse me for a second. Humans solve problems. That's one of the major things that humans do. Adlerians, Alfred Adler in particular, invented a term for this. It's called your lifestyle, how you solve problems. How have you confronted your problems? Have you even confronted them? Have you come to grips with any of that? Are you running away from your problems? Have you done partial work on your problems? Do you simply give the appearance that you're a person with no problems, you've resolved your problems, etc.? Three basic life problems, according to this lecturer, who was an Adlerian. What's your relationship to other people? Some are good, some are bad, some are what's your work status and your occupation, and how does that influence your concept of yourself and your inferiority feelings? How do you relate to the opposite gender? Again, this is something that's very important, equality of genders. And do you see yourself as subjected to men? Do you see yourself as an equal to men? Do you see yourself as a lord over women, for instance? How do you relate to the opposite gender? Today, we don't say opposite gender for love relationships. We say love relationships because it's LB or LGBTQ rights have come into the picture. Solution to life problems, according to Adlerians, is cooperation. We're going to put a puzzle together. I mean, you know, a lot of talk about individualization of people. Adlerians are saying it's cooperation between people that helps you solve difficulties and problems. And in this lecture, the guy pointed out some material about hermits. Okay, are they antisocial? Well, even hermits living alone, refusing to meet with other people, have to confront all of this stuff. Social issues and cooperation. The major social issues that Adlerians see, according to the lecturer, occur in religion, art, and the physical world. Those three items are the social issues that are of major importance: religion, art, physical world. I once was at the Women's Art Museum in downtown St. Paul with a family group, and there was a picture similar to the one in this graphic. You know, it's just a bunch of squares and triangles and so on. And I was talking with an in-law, and he said, I could have painted that. So I asked him some questions because I knew something about art. And I said, do you notice how there's a series of lines, kind of columns in this painting? How many columns can you have in a picture to make it look balanced? What difference does that make? I said, how about up and down? How about colors? If you've got red in the lower right, what do you have to have in the upper left? What are you talking about? What difference does it make? I could have painted that. I said, no, you have to have an odd number of columns, up and down, right and left. Even numbers look funny. The picture's always hanging wrong. If the colors aren't done correctly, again, looks like the picture's always hanging wrong. And so it does make a difference. Then the physical world. When we teach about the physical world, we tend to teach about exploration and discovery. Christopher Columbus, hey, he got money from the Spaniards. He was an Italian. He went out and explored and he discovered the Americas, and it's exploration and discovery. And that's how it's taught. Well, no, it's about conquest, but we seldom discuss that particular issue. So here we've done, religion, art, physical world. Everyone should be my religion. A lot of religious people have no room for diversity. Modern art is a corruption. You can't tell what it is. It should represent something. It should be representative art, not just a bunch of shapes. And our political and economic system is the best. These are notions from people who want other people to be like them. So again, according to Adlerians, or this particular Adlerian in his lecture, religion, art, and the physical world. Face the truth or sneak around it. What are you doing? Are you facing it? Or are you sneaking? Do you walk away from arguments, or do you continue to have a discussion with people? Do you form alibis and excuses for things you've done or things other people have done who you're defending? What if somebody else wins the argument or you feel they'd have? Do you become discouraged, feel inadequate? You're a failure? Do you have a sense of that? According to the lecturer, that's where the inferiority complex comes from. That's how it's developed. Feelings of inferiority. You become a loner or you become a bully. You refuse to get involved with people or you stare them down. Do you go lazy and do nothing? Go sit in a chair and oh, the heck with it all. Do you abolish reality? These people don't know what they're talking about, this, that, and the other thing. Do you dream up a fictional scenario of what life is like or what life should be like? These are things, these are the kinds of things that Adlerian therapists will be asking their patients about. Make a list of all your problems, or make a list of the problems you have and you've resolved, things like that. Life is viewed as filled with fear, filled with suspicion. People are your enemies. Hate becomes the solution. This is how Adlerians see people who never develop properly. Fear, suspicion, everybody's an enemy. Hate is the solution. So they have, this is how they see the origin of prejudice. Adlerian basics. Excuse me, I gotta keep checking for the time here to make sure I don't go over time. Adlerian basics. Let's take a look at religion. Now we're done with this lecture. This is back to Alfred Adler and basics. In the past, religion was a communal thing. It was something you did together. Everybody in the group was a part of it. It was a matter of socializing. It was a tribal thing. But with the rise of democracies, we brought about freedom and tolerance of others, capitalism, you help yourself. Religion has, because of the rise of democracies and the freedom, tolerance, and capitalism, where if you don't take care of yourself, that's your problem. We have ended up becoming individualistic, self-centered, and not concerned with others, according to Adlerians. God helps those who help themselves. So much for love thy neighbor. Well, people get blamed for their situation. That's your problem. It's not a social problem. Society's off the hook. You're responsible for this. The Protestant work ethic was developed after the Protestant Reformation in Germany by Luther. He says you need to work. If you work hard, that's a good thing. And frequently you hear lots of super religious people that say doesn't get anything done. He sits in a chair, just leading an easy life and so on. Now, the church, for the first 1,500 years that it existed, was pretty much in cooperation with political leaders. The kings and the church worked together, and it was a two-class society. You had nobility, and then you had the workers. The Protestant Reformation took up this same argument then. And the Protestant work ethic is you should work hard. They're identifying with the upper classes, according to Adlerians. Creativity. Creative people generally don't interact with other people very well. So these interactions with others is often something that's grown out of being creative, an art person, dancer, visual artist, musician, etc. Concentrate only on creativity, acting, writing the play, things like that. An example is Beethoven. Lots of people who knew Beethoven wrote in their diaries that he was nasty to other people. He was busy writing music and doing something important, and leave me alone. So all the arts are criticized. People like it or do not like it. I didn't like that. I couldn't understand it. What language was that? It was some opera written in Italian. Artists are regularly under the gun. Lots of people making comments about themselves, both about their artwork, both positive and negative. Excuse me. And the question for people in the arts then becomes, is my stuff liked or is it disliked? What are the newspapers saying about it? Creative people often will show their work in public. They'll perform in public, but they often do not sell their work. What work can be sold anyway? No performing for money. Frequently, this is a guitar player. All he does is play the guitar alone. It's all about practice. But I'm not going to go out where people can say something ugly about me. Might hear bad things from the public. So a lot of artists are alone, as in the top graphic. They're not part of a group. as in the bottom graphic. Generally, these kinds of things are what are called neurotic behaviors. Neuroses are mild disorders. They are different from psychoses or psychotic behavior, which is a much deeper illness. Changes the reality of your life and what you're thinking about. Lifestyle defined. People want to be somebody, want to count as a person, want to be known for some type of excellence. But often there's little awareness about this need among all people. About the age of 5, we stop listening to parents. We start doing stuff, okay, and finally you're made to get up and come to dinner or something. It's a beginning of wanting to be somebody. You're seeing a hierarchy within the family, maybe. You're seeing people talking about relationships. You can now talk, walk, do your own stuff. So leave me alone. You know, I'm somebody now. So this begins about the age of 5, according to Adlerians. If you don't get your way, you throw a temper tantrum. This is what's happening here with this very young girl. And usually, okay, they get you to stop that, and it's followed by kindness. Evasion, tantrums in adulthood. We saw childhood a tantrum on the last slide. How about as adults? How do adults do tantrums? Sometimes through addiction, and sometimes by evading problems, not taking part in the problem, not admitting that you have a problem, not facing what's difficult for you. Goal of a counselor is awareness. You have a lifestyle according to Adlerians. Here's what it is. And the patient might go, what? I'm like that? But you also ask the patient to describe themselves. So the goal of the counselor, make you aware of your lifestyle. Here's how you're behaving, and allow some self-discovery and allow yourself to admit what's happening. In the United States, the major approaches that people take, according to Adlerians and many other schools of psychology, is we're self-centered and we're competitive. Self-centeredness and competition, major adult problems, according to Adlerians. They make you suspicious of other people. You don't get involved with them. And you lack social feelings about them because it's about me, self-centeredness, and my competition with you. Ebenezer. There's Ebenezer Scrooge. People often become rebellious. They lack warmth toward others, overly competitive. If you've got Netflix or Amazon, you could do it right now, or when you get near the Christmas season, watch one of the several movies about Ebenezer Scrooge, and you'll see what Adlerians are talking about. And of course, he comes out of it also. Fact is, any place you ever work will require cooperation, not competition, not self-centeredness. Even though that's what we talk about, that's how we feel about our economic system. But corporations are teamwork in a lot of cases. A lot more individualization at the top of those companies. I'm in charge. Here's what you have to do. Follow my orders. Lifestyle types, Adlerian basics. There are 4 types of lifestyles: learning, avoiding, ruling, and socially useful. Thanks. Time for another sip. Thank you. Lifestyle types, learning. Learning. These people are usually very highly sensitive, but they form a shell around themselves. Other people aren't interested in what they've learned or what they're talking about, or they become dependent on other people too. Big time learners do. And they tend to have low energy levels. You're not required to be doing much if you're learning. You can sit in a chair and read. You can watch a TV series or something. But learning people tend to form a shell around themselves, according to Adlerians. They often have fears, which psychologists call phobias. They become outraged in front of other people, very excitable, better off being on your own. This is known as hysteria. Then they have a high commitment to ideas. I've learned about these things. I know what these things are, and you stick with them. They become obsessions. So Adlerian lifestyle types, phobias, hysterias, obsessions. Not very complimentary stuff. It's a bunch of rat turds. Avoiding as a lifestyle. You hate being defeated. I feel defeated when I'm talking to other people. So I'm not going to talk to other people. I don't want to be seen as a loser, as I think I might be if I'm active in a group. So I'm going to have very few social contacts. And these people that use avoidance as a lifestyle generally feel rejected by others. Ruling as a lifestyle. Power-hungry individuals. These are people that want the top jobs. Things have to go their way, just within a family. It may not be occupationally based. Within a family, we're not going to that movie. We're going to some other movie, or why do we have to meet at their house as a family? I'd rather meet at thus and such. Things have to go their way. They're antisocial. They don't get along with decisions made by other people or invitations, or I'll measure up here. I'm doing okay. Socially useful, Adlerian, and another Adlerian lifestyle. Socially useful people are generally active. They get out into the community. They go to things that involve other people. They wonder how they can improve other people's lives. Is there anything I can do to help you? Oh, I heard you were sick. Here's a cake I baked for you, so on. And they're outgoing socially. So socially useful people. A review. Lifestyles include avoidance, and those are people that aren't very social. They avoid other people. There are rulers or ruling, I'm in charge, and socially useful, improving lifestyles for myself and others. Schools, Adlerian, talking about education here, schools. Competition starts in the family, then you go to school, and it gets even worse there. You not only have a lot more people around you, you also now take tests, you get grades, and you go out to recess and there's sports. So it's emphasis on competition. Memories. What are your memories? Are they about yourself usually? Are they things from your childhood or from the present day or your adulthood? They are reminders of who you believe you are. That's what memories are. They remind you of who you are. Get into the age group that most of us in this audience are a part of, and there's lots of thinking back. What are your accomplishments? What have they been? Did you find a meaning? What's your current meaning? Uh, what makes you get up in the morning? What are your limitations? What can't you do? You know, I'm all done climbing stairs. I think I'll buy a chair lift. Parental responsibilities, Adlerian basics. What does a parent need to do? Well, children need to be trained, and they need to be trained that they're part of the family. You're not on your own. We're all here working together, and we want to help you and be a part of you and what you are. This applies not just to parents, but to educational institutions, to all of society, to occupations, to corporations, etc. Professions and corporations, according to Adler's, should be doing social character development and allowing for responsibility. This should be required of them, according to Adlerians. Adlerians see occupational institutions as frequently doing just the opposite of this. If you're not feeling equal, leads to feelings of inferiority and superiority. So as a parent, what can you do to make all the kids feel like they're equal? White supremacy. Now this deals with equality, and where does it come from? Been actualized again here early in the 21st century, the first 25 years, last 25 years, we've seen a rise again of what's called white supremacy. Uh, Inferior feelings, superior feelings, they're all a cause. You should feel inferior, I should feel superior. Been actualized again recently. Adler used a phrase, Gemeinschaft gets full. This is social correctness, the well-being of others. That's what we should be concerned with. It gives you a sense of belonging, and it's seen as something good. And competitiveness, for instance, can be difficult and lead to these feelings of supremacy in whatever the case might be. Race-related, white supremacy is a race-related item. Parental education groups, they're a vital part of Adlerian societies. Wondering how we're doing for questions. Can I go through this section or?
You can. Currently, we don't have any questions in the Q&A box. You
Okay,
can feel free to start populating that.
I'll keep
Um,
talking.
okay.
I have about 34 slides left.
Oh, well, we got
Next
20
week,
minutes.
yeah, so let me
Okay.
continue with it. And next week, if I don't finish all of this, we'll finish this up, and then I'll start doing things on uh, body language. How can you see what another person's doing and what does it mean? And that gets pretty interesting. You can take a look at what a person's doing. And so anyway, back to this.
Okay.
This is parental education groups are part of Adlerian societies that meet together and a vital part of them. So let's here's what they call the 4 pillars. And we're going to take a look at it, excuse me, in larger type. The 4 pillars of parenting. This is called the 4 C's. I belong and I'm connected. I'm capable. I can do anything. I have a voice. It counts. It's of value. I have courage. I can handle what comes my way. Connected, capable, counts as a person. Courage. Those are the 4 C's of Adlerian psychology. So let's take a look at some criticisms of Adlerian psychology. First, Adler himself, and this is kind of confusing. There has been some misunderstanding of my custom of classification according to position in the family. It is not, of course, the child's number in the order of successive births, which influences his character. That's all you've been talking about. But the situation into which he is born and the way he interprets it. So Adler was responding to criticism by kind of changing his view, his direction a little bit here. Criticisms of birth order. No social statistics are hard and fast. You know, this, like we can say, well, this firstborn person is a ruler. Well, 70% of them are, 30% of them aren't. Social statistics are almost never at a 100% level. They don't apply in all cases. So percentages are common. There's this many, and then there's that many. Other factors are often stronger than the one that we're looking at, even. Prescriptive advice, and this is based on research. People have said these things. They sound kind of silly. The youngest brother in a family of sisters should marry the oldest sister in a family of brothers. The youngest sister in a family of brothers should marry the oldest brother in a family of sisters. Alfred Adler never did any research on birth order, so never drew conclusions such as the two that I just read to you. He further stated it was unnecessary to be doing this research. These are hypotheses. They stand alone. They are enough to tell us about people. Theories are subjective. They're not objective. And a lot of what we do in psychology is, in these schools of psychology, is subjective. It's really about relationships, interrelationships, relationships with other people. We don't have them, we sort of have them, they're family only, they include other communities, etc. Ideas don't need to be a cookbook to have merit. You know, they don't have to be something that's 1, 2, 3, then mix it together. Genetics. Geneticists are major critics of Adlerian psychology. Personality is a physical trait, according to geneticists, not a social thing. It's determined by your genes, personality is. Differences are not the result of birth order or lifestyle. I say, personally, me, a huge ouch to that. When I was in college, it was all about nature versus nurture, and nurture was the big item. It's what you learn about, and as you're a child and going into adulthood. It has now become a lot more physical, a lot more people believing in the physical dimension. Now, nurture, which is learning, they say no to genetics. Society is the major influence in your life and who you've become. In the animal kingdom, all animals, all of us, all species of the animal kingdom, humans are most influenced by the environment around them, by other people. We can be shaped. This is according to the nurture group. Basic tenets. This is criticism. Again, we're still on criticism, and we're going to look at addiction. Alcohol addiction. It's been defined as a physical disease. Adler saw it as a lifestyle choice, not a physical disease. And it's just something that needs treatment. And that's what alcoholic groups do. It's what therapists do. However, alcohol addiction was heavily lobbied by alcoholic groups like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And they got it defined as a physical disease. And of course, almost all of your health insurance is bodily oriented. Almost none of it covers mental diseases. So if you can get alcoholism defined as a physical disease, it will be covered by your health insurance. If it's a mental disorder, you're going to have to pay $150 an hour to a therapist. Criticism, LGBTQ. Gay and lesbian, those terms were called homosexuals or homosexuality in Adler's day. Adler wrote about this as early as 1917, so over 100 years ago. He stated it was one of the failures of life. Now, he's going to change his mind about this, it's due to an inferiority complex, according to Adler, through most of his adult life. It's a lack of courage. It's a failure of life. It's an inferiority complex. It's a lack of courage to be LGBTQ. Adler stated it was criminal behavior like prostitution and should be so classified. It's a choice that you make. It's not a physical characteristic. 1920s, psychiatrists generally agreed with Adler. This is just a picture of a group of psychiatrists, medical doctors, and they agreed with Adler. Freud stated that homosexuality, or LGBTQ as we say today, is rooted in narcissism. That is self-love. So what we need to do is treat people to not be narcissistic. Get them to be more outgoing. Carl Jung, pictured in the bottom right there, and we'll talk about Jung eventually, as well as Freud. Jung has archetypes. They're kind of like Freud's defense mechanisms. They are like Adler's lifestyles. So these archetypes that Jung has, he has one that's called animus. And he says in males, it's rooted in the female aspects of personality. So you become a homosexual because many take on the sorts of aspects of the female personality. Animus. Here's Adler in the 1930s. Now he dies in the 1930s. He apologizes. And he says, what I was saying back in the 19 teens, I no longer believe. It isn't adequate. I've abandoned those early statements that I've made, and you're normal people. If people are happy, we should leave them alone, he said. In the late 20th, early 21st century, things have begun to change for LGBTQ communities, although just like white supremacy and racism, we're starting to be critical again, or there's a group of people that's being very critical of people that are not male female oriented. So we'll see what comes of that. Now, that's all the slides that I have. So I'm done for this week.
Okay, well, we have a couple questions.
Okay.
Does the way people interact vary with the dominant culture, or does the culture change the way citizens' relationships are manifested?
Well, yes. Actually, yeah, you can deny your culture. Lots of people do, but most people accept it. Some people accept aspects of it. 50 years ago, 40% of all people were in church on any given Sunday. Today, it's 18%. It's gone down quite a bit. Do you identify with that group? Well, if you do, you're, kind of a minority. I don't know. Does that answer the question, sort of, or?
I think so.
It varies, and yes, culture makes a difference, but people can reject their culture, and every culture has outsiders. They don't dress right, or they, men grow their hair long. When I was a kid, Elvis Presley started with hair that he so long he had to comb it back into a tail at the back of his head. I went swimming at a lake, and I don't know, I was maybe 15 years old, and my hair was hanging down below my ears. It got wet. And a guy that was mowing the lawn got off the mower, came over and said, "Say, young man, it's time for a haircut." So uh, things change and we accept them more freely. What my culture was like in the 1950s is quite different from what my culture is like in the 2020s.
Okay, let's go back to the lecture you attended.
Oh, yeah.
Someone is asking, seems that they completely ignored in this lecture the issues of childhood that seem to be really central to a lot of Alfred Adler's um, basis for his insights. They're just saying no insight needed. They're just looking at current problems then instead without context of the childhood, and to
Wow.
ignore that seemed to be un-Adlerian.
Well, you go to a lecture and it can be about an individual thing within a very complex situation. And this particular lecture that I attended didn't deal with that.
Okay.
I suspect that person they didn't mean, they weren't leaving it out because they disagreed with it. They were leaving it out because the theme of what they were talking about was something else.
Okay. Slide 208. You didn't talk about the Grant Tomb elevator story.
Oh, yeah. That just really is unrelated to the lecture. It's kind of a side note, but my wife and I lived at 110th Street on the west side of Manhattan once. And at 125th Street, what is where the tomb of Ulysses Grant and his wife is located. It's just spectacular. And a couple blocks away is a gigantic Baptist church with a set of bells in it that are just spectacular. And so that 125th Street on the west, upper west side of Manhattan has Grant's tomb. It's a huge building, circular in shape. You walk up a stairway into it, and you can look down a story from the railing. And there are two caskets, and they are Grant and his wife buried there. They lived in New York City after his presidency. And
Huh.
so it was just another comment about Manhattan and living there. Yeah, sorry.
One quick question I had in terms of therapy that Adler, I think his that was not his goal was to help provide therapy for people. Um, did he see people changing their lifestyles
Yes.
to a different lifestyle or just to better their life in the lifestyle that they tended towards?
Yeah, no, he saw that and he claims that's the purpose of therapy. Now, he did not just believe that he would sit with a patient and that was therapy. That's our common view of therapy. Adler involved groups,
Okay.
and it might be a group of 12, and you all sit at a round table and talk about your difficulties and your successes and so on. It might be a psychodrama, which I talked about. You might have a large auditorium with a couple hundred people in it, and you bring one family up and have them discuss something. And then you ask the audience to respond to it. So Adlerians used interactive therapy between people that wanted to change their lives.
Okay, that was just a question I had. I was like going, I couldn't
Thanks.
imagine going from being somebody who's avoiding to being somebody socially useful easily, but
Yeah, there's lots of issues about does therapy work, and lots of people say yes, it did, or it made no difference to me, and depends on whether you liked the person you ended up seeing or not. There's just endless factors,
so
and for psychiatrists, for many, it's a drug thing.
so okay, well, it is 2 o'clock. I don't know if Belinda has anything to say or if we are um just good for the day. Just a reminder to people, remember next week, Q and questions going Q&A, not in chat. And otherwise,
And we'll do body language.
I,
What's it mean when I do this? What's it
you want
really?
us to take your thumbprint. But no, we will be looking forward to that next week. And otherwise, everyone enjoy the rest of your week and have a great day. Get out to a little bit of sunshine, maybe, I don't know, but try and okay, bye everyone.